Hi, Julia Watts here. Thank you for joining me on my YouTube channel. So today we're going to be making a project with one of the new stamps from the brand new Woodgrain Botanicals from Sentimentally Yours. Now there are 6 florals in the set and plus a plain background as well. So we've got the daisies that I'm going to be using in this project. We have the hibiscus. We have the carnations. So you've got the same wood grain background in all of them. You've got the thistles, which is wonderful, and the chrysanthemum, and the sunflower as well. And then, as I've mentioned to you, we've also got a plain wood grain as well. So this is going to be great for your bigger backgrounds and also for adding detail to your flowers as well. They're all A6 clear stamps, and they're high grade photopolymer, so the best quality that you can get manufactured in the UK. So let's start with a bit of stamping. So I'm going to use my stamping platform, and I've got a piece of and this is a Press to Impress from Crafts 2, and I'm going to be using a piece of the Sentimentally Yours super smooth watercolour card because it's fab for stamping on. And because I've cut an A6 piece, I'm not going to go right into the corner, but I am going to line it up onto the 2cm line, which is what these papers are fab because they help you with your lining up, and also if you're going to stamp off of the page a little bit, they keep your foam mat that's underneath nice and clean. So I'm going to line this up first, and then I'm going to give it dusting afterwards, because sometimes when you pop a stamp down onto your card, if you move it a little bit, you pick up some of the kind of sticky residue, perhaps from an ink or from the stamp itself, and sometimes that can affect your embossing because you've added something sticky to your card. Let's pick that up onto there. Now we're going to dust it with my anti-static bag, and this is a Sentimentally Yours little bag. So this will mean that if there is any sticky residue on the card or fingerprints or anything like that, then my embossing powder isn't going to stick to it. Of course, depending on what you're colouring in with, you don't need to emboss. So if you're using your alcohol markers, then you want to go onto the special bright white card for alcohol markers rather than the watercolour. And a Memento ink is really good for that. If you're just doing using, say, a watercolour pen or a dye ink, then there's no need to stamp and emboss, or if you're using translucent paints, because you'll see your line art underneath because it's translucent. A dye ink is translucent as well. So then you can stamp with VersaFine Clair, which I'm using, or VersaFine or Archival. And there's no need to emboss, but I'm going to actually use the Radiant Lustre pigment powders and the acrylic metallic paints from Sentimentally Yours, so that's why I want to resist going on. So you can see I'm inking it with an inch of its life while I'm talking, and just so I can get a perfect impression first time. Now the background is very kind of it's distressed wood grain, so that makes it really easy for your stamping. It means that if it doesn't all stamp, it's absolutely fine. Obviously you want to give a bit of more attention to the actual flowers themselves, but we're on a platform, so we can always go again. Give your stamp a chance to release itself. So I could do with it in a little bit darker around there, so I'm just going to go again around the flowers mainly. Probably need to re-ink my ink pad. It's always good to have a really juicy ink pad, and sometimes the first time that you use a stamp as well, it won't necessarily stamp brilliantly ink wise because the stamp is being conditioned, if you like. As far as conditioning stamps is concerned, I never bother. I'd always go straight to my project. VersaFine Clair stays wet for quite a while, so it does mean that you can add your embossing powder. So that's a bit darker. I'm still a little bit light just there. That's better. Okay, so we'll emboss that now. Move that out of the way. So we're going to add some super fine even embossing powder from Sentimentally Yours, and this is the crystal clear. So what the embossing powder is going to do is give us a resist. So we're going to preserve that lovely line art. Get a tap off. So you will find the products available on my website, juliawattscrafts.co.uk, and also on honeypotcrafts.co.uk. Right, so I'm going to just pause the video just for a second while I heat set that. Okay, so we're all heat set now using a heat tool, and you can see that's nice and glossy, and the black intensifies as well, the black ink. So what I've also done is I've also created some masks, and this is on the Woodgrain masket sheet, and just of the flower heads. Now this particular part it is completely optional, because you can absolutely do this without masks if you're not into doing that. You want to cut them out so that they're slightly smaller than the daisies themselves. It's a little bit fiddly, but I find it quite therapeutic as well, keeping the back in pieces. So we've got this one here. See if I can get it lined up. That's not lined up at all. So that's where the stem is. Bear with. Right, I think we're good now. I think I've cut some bits off that I shouldn't have done. But hey ho. It'll be all right. And then there's this trio of flower heads for the top. If you keep the backing piece and pop your mask back on there, you can use your masks over and over again. Of course, as long as you're happy with them, which I might not be if I've cut an extra bit off. And it doesn't matter, you know, when you've got some of the flowers that are joined, you can actually cut in between, so they don't, like here there's a gap, so that bit's been cut and that bit's been cut, so it fits in nicely. So you might think, oh, that's more trouble than it's worth. Well, you don't have to do it, you absolutely don't. So there's my mask in place. So now we're going to give the background a bit of a wash. And to do that, I'm going to use the Copper Flawless Media Metallic Acrylic Paint. So I am going to use a indigo blue paint mat, so I don't have as much clearing up to do while we're doing this. So we're going to fetch some of the paint out. That's far too much. And we're going to dilute it down with some water. I do want it to be quite diluted. The more you dilute it, the less kind of pearly it is, because obviously it's quite pigmented. So I'm also going to take a clean brush and I'm going to just wash all the way around the daisies, just to make the paint run a little bit smoother. So this is just water. I'm not too worried about the stems. As you can see, that was far too fiddly to cut out. Because they're going to be a dark colour, whereas the daisies I'm going to do in yellow and orange. So I felt it would be quite difficult going over brown or copper with the yellow and the orange. It might not be 100% clean water, this. That's fine. That's just going to help the paint move a little bit better. So now when we take our copper, it'll move around a little bit. And the lines will also, the embossed lines will actually resist a bit. And obviously our mask is in place. So it's going to protect the actual flower heads as well. You see it's a bit darker where there's less water. I don't mind if it's a little bit patchy, because we're going for the kind of stone washed kind of look. Those stone washes normally, it's a kind of a bluey colour, isn't it? Stone wash, normally white on blue. That would be nice actually, doing a blue background. See, no skill involved whatsoever. There's our background already done. Fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. So we're going to leave that to dry because obviously it's quite wet. And put that to one side while we do some other things as well. Okie dokie, let's move this out of the way. I'm going to use this mat for something else as well, so in a moment. Right, that's something else is we've got, this is a stitched torn rectangle die, cut again from the watercolour card, and you can see I've already cut a circle out at the centre of that because this is going to, that section there is going to be hidden, because I've got a frame that's going to go over there like that. And I am going to go that way. The temptation is to do your mats and layers like this, but I thought it would be interesting to actually have one that was going to go that way, just for something different. So this is the largest of these stitched torn rectangles, and I've embossed it with the classic Flourish embossing folder, and I put it through my my Go Power and emboss, and I've used the sandwich I've used is the base plate, and then I've used 2 of the C plates, so the thinner plates, the 3mm plates, and it's embossed beautifully. It's a lovely, lovely deep emboss. I like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to again go for our copper paint. Let's just clean my brush up, because we're going to tie that copper in from what we've had before. And again, pop some onto my craft sheet. I want a bit more this time, but that's far too much. I always get it all over my finger. I know Phil was saying that the other day as well. Right, so we're going to run it. Let's just run it across there a little bit. Right, so it's easier to pick up. Then we're going to pick it up onto my brayer. And this is a 4-inch Sentimentally Yours brayer. And we're going to just run it over the top very lightly. So I'm hardly touching it. I think we'll go for a bit more paint. Have it a bit darker. Oh, I didn't leave the lid off for a bit. Let's just have a bit more. That should definitely be enough. Okay, myself off. So this will actually, you know, the colours will tie in. Now I could have absolutely used the wood grain background stamp. I could have used that in the background, but I just thought it would be nice to have something different, a little bit of different texture. So my brow is so squeaky. So again, you're just going to go really paying attention more to the edges rather than the middle. See if there's any more on there that would pick up. These paint mats are really good from Indigo Blue. Nothing sticks to them. Gesso, you do have to kind of work to get a little that off, but it's great for your paint. It comes off really easily if you don't want to make a mess of your craft sheet. So I'm happy with that. Let's just put that in there so it doesn't get all mucky. So it's just in some water. Right, so I think we've finished with the mat for now. Just give that a bit of a clean. So that's my background, main background done. Then we're going to well, my main image is still drying, I think. Is it still drying? Yes, it's still drying. Nearly dry though. We're going to stamp a sentiment onto our circle. You can see that's come from here. And we're going to use one of the Tray Chic Essential Sentiments, one of the smaller ones. So obviously because they're clear, you can see exactly where they're going to go, whether that's big enough. So Summer Special's a little bit big, so is that. Sent with Love's a bit big. We can have the Just For You, that would be nice. Or a New Home, that's a nice one. Let's have a New Home. We're just going to actually, because we've embossed our background, let's keep it so that this is embossed as well, just for a bit of continuity. So I like a bit of continuity. You could just stamp it without embossing it. So this is a stitch torn circle. So just adding the anti-static bag, and then we're going to go to our VersaFine Clay Nocturne again. I've got all of the VersaFine Clays in stock on my website at the moment. Great selection of colours. So we're just going to stamp it with a block out there. Give the ink a chance to settle in. Gentle press. That should be good. We've got a New Home going on there. Okay. And we want, again, to pop some embossing powder on. Nearly forgot I was going to do this then. Good job VersaFine Clay stays wet for a while. So I'll tap that off and heat set that. I'll be back in a mo. Okay, so that's nicely embossed now, so you can see that's nice and glossy. So we'll put that to one side and we'll be adding something to that in a moment. So now I've got some flowers. I've got these are the Delicate Daisies from Sentimentally Yours, and I've got one of the Sensational Stamens, and we're going to colour those in at the same time as we actually colour in our daisies from our main image. It's not 100% dry, but it's nearly dry, so you can still see, although we really watered it down, it is quite pearlescent, the acrylic paint. So let's remove our masks and see if they've done the job. And they have beautifully. Put this to one side. And this one, obviously, like I said, it is completely optional to you. You don't have to do that. You can just colour in a little bit more carefully. So let's get our daisies coloured in. So I thought what we'd do is use the pale gold in the centre. And we're going to, these are the Radiant Lustre pigment powders, and we're going to use African Sunset for our outside of our daisy. So I'm really thinking more gerbera than daisies here, because obviously gerbera is a kind of a type of daisy. And for the leaves and the stems, we're going to use the olive. So let's start, first of all, let's start with the African sunset around the edges, and we'll also paint our daisies as well. So I've got a palette here, and you can get this from Indigo Blue. And I've got my colours in here, so, and I've written with a Sharpie on the outside which is which, and where I'm gonna, where there's gaps, there'll either be more powders added or there'll be mixes that I make. And obviously the mixes you're not always going to mix exactly the same, but you know, the ingredients, if you like, is the same. So let's grab a brush, so damp brush, so we can just start this off. I've already got some, this is your African sunset in here. So we're going to just mist that with some water to reignite it, and that's the pale gold in there. And the olive, where's the olive? And the olive is at the top. We don't need to start the olive off yet, a bit early for that. So we can just reconstitute that with some water. Bring some more water in. So now we've got obviously a water-based pearlescent paint. Obviously the more water you add, the less intense the pearlescence, if you like, the mica. So I'm just getting it going until I'm happy with it, and then we're going to paint our daisies. So yes, around the outside. So what you'll find is that the embossed lines will resist, so it makes colouring in really easy. The thicker the paint is, the less it kind of jumps off the lines. So it's I think when Kate uses her luscious powders, she says like the consistency of single cream. You can see where I've missed colouring in some of my background there, which is a little bit annoying, but that's fine. I'm going to live with that. Obviously these daisies you could stamp on a separate sheet and decoupage these up, which would be quite nice. Oh, wrong one. And you will find that as the water evaporates and the paint dries, that the pearlescence becomes more noticeable. Don't be tempted to dab off the paint in order to make it to dry quicker, because what you'll do is you'll just remove the mica, because mica rises to the surface, which is why it's nice and shiny when it dries. And so all you'll be doing is dabbing off the mica, and you don't want to do that. Well, I don't think you do. Missed a bit there as well. It's all right, we'll fix it. We can make that into a stem maybe. Right, so I'm just colouring in. See, there's no kind of talent involved. They are quite shabby images, so that means your colouring can be a bit shabby as well, if you want it to be. It's quite a vivid yellow, isn't it? Well, not yellow, orange. I like this sort of colouring in. It's very relaxing. You don't have to think about light and shade. You're just going with your lovely powders. So move your image around when you want to colour in another area. Don't lean over it necessarily, because if the powder's still wet, then all you're going to do is smudge it, and you don't want to do that. I keep on telling you what you don't want to do. You might want to smudge it. Nearly there. You see that, you know, you don't need to dip very often into your powder. You can colour in loads of petals with one dip. And the paint's very similar as well, because both products are highly pigmented. One last little bit in here. And that's our daisies coloured in. And let's just do, while we've got the paint on the brush, let's do our flowers as well. So again, this is on watercolour card. I've only used watercolour card for this project, with a little bit of black for some of the mats and layers, and for the leaves that are going to go with the flowers. Let's get my pokey tool just so I can hold that. That's that one. Let's bring that one over here so we only have a certain amount of mess to deal with. And I've already done some flowers, but I didn't want to do, I wanted to keep a whole flower and colour it in front of you. Sometimes if you've added your water to your powder and then you colour in and then you come back and do it again, if you haven't added the same amount of water, you're going to get different shades. So I wanted this flower to all have the same shade. I hope that makes sense. I know what I mean. You can always ask me, send me a message. Right, let's tidy up that little bit there, and then we go on to the yellow, or the pale gold as it's called. So we've got some pale gold in there. Let's give my brush a little bit of a wash. Take some more water in here, give that a mix. So if you use one of these palettes, you're never going to waste any of your powder. And they're big pots, they're 25mm pots, and they're just going to last you a very long time. I'm not going to say forever, but they're going to last you a very long time. So let's just colour in the centres of the daisies, where I've got that orange overlapping. I'm just going to give it a bit more attention so that I can merge that in. Obviously you can mix your colours, so I could mix some of the pale gold in with the African sunset and make a different orange. You can also lighten colours by using the lunar pearl, and you can darken them by using the obsidian. There's so much that you can do with them. Obviously the benefit of having your colours already mixed in a pot means that you're always going to get the same colour every single time. But when you mix your own colours, you know, you need to make sure that you mix enough for your project. So this is the Sensational Stamens. So we're just going on here with some of the pale gold. I'm going to put that aside to dry. So just the stems to do now, and we're going to use the olive for that. Let's wake up the olive. I've added quite a lot of water to my centres of my daisies, so that will take a little bit longer to dry. That's fine, we've got other things that we can do. So let's get the olive going. I think I want a bit more in there actually. So we just pick up some of the powder with a damp brush and take it into our well and give it a good old mix. Make sure that everything's mixed in, so you haven't got grains of or lumps of the powder. I think that'd be fine. We're going to go into the stem. Not sure where the stems are going here. Let's have a little bit green down the bottom. The coverage is really good. And it does go over the top of the paint as well. Let's just go for this one. Well, so you can take your time a little bit more. I'm aware that it does take a little bit of a while to show you. There we go. A little bit bugged by that gap there, so I'll deal with that in a minute. We'll let that dry now. Okie dokie. Now, what I suggest you do is once you've finished your painting, you actually put this aside but leave the lid open. That way the air causes the water to evaporate, and then you can put your lid on. If you actually put your lid on while it's still wet, then it takes longer to set down, and if you were, say, transporting it and it was on its side or it fell over or something, then you're going to potentially mix some of your colours together where it splats out. So I would always kind of put it to one side, laying it open. Okie dokie. Now, where are we at? Let's have a look. Oh, right. I do want to go into that well again, actually. So let's move my piece that's drying out of the way. We're going to take a little bit piece of kitchen sponge, and we're going to just edge some pieces with the sponge. So I'm going to just give that, because that was the first colour I used, I'm just going to give that a little bit more of a blast with water and get it going. Yeah, because it's quite, so it does set down quite quickly. Obviously it depends on the temperature in your room. I'll work that now. I'm not worried if it's quite runny for this. Don't want to waste that. And we're going to pick that up onto our sponge. See, it is quite wet. That's all right, stay wet on there for a while and I'll pick that up. So we're just going to swipe it around our circle here, just like we would if it was a distress ink. That's going to give us a nice border. We're going to do the same thing with our frames as well. If I can hold this. So this brings in the orange into the edges as well, because obviously it's our main colour of our daisy. And really kind of stresses that distressed edge from the torn stitched rectangles. One more. Pick up a bit more. You can do this with the paints as well. So that's that one. We're in that space, and then we'll do this one as well, just around the outside edges of this one. This frame I've made to go around my image, and hopefully it'll look lovely when it's all together. So I am going to leave this frame plain. I'm not going to stamp on it because I feel that we've got something going on in the background. We've got our main image that's got a background to it, so I don't want to put too much pattern on here. There we go. And that's going to be nice and pearlescent when it dries. So that's that. So obviously the sponge you can just clean off, no problem. Inside, clean up. I know it's criminal, isn't it, that this would be wasted, but we could pick that up onto a piece of card, don't waste it. And that'll be a bit of a pearlescent background going on. Let's pick it all up actually. Be nice for your die cuts too. Lovely. Okay. I will mop this bit up though, because otherwise I'll get so many pieces of card you'll be bored watching me do that. Right, so let's shape the flower. Is that dry yet? It is nearly. Well, before we do that, let's just go into the plate again. I think my mat isn't dry actually now. So we just put a little bit on here. Tiny little bit. And some water. Just fill in that gap. Because it's bugging me. I don't want that to be too dark though. So if you didn't want to put the mask on, you'd do this first. So you could go round all the little bits that I've missed, and do it first. That's a bit darker than the other bit now, isn't it? Let's put a bit more on here, so it doesn't look too odd. It's always a work in progress. You can always add to it, you can always fix things. Okay. Right, step away from the background, Julia. Right, let's shape this flower. Oh, lid on paint. Shape this flower. I've got some flowers already. So we're just going to take our ball tool and going on the back, we're going to just drag the ball tool to the centre of the daisy. Like so. And do the same on the other one. I have a feeling that this stamen is going to be a bit big, but I do have another one that I can use. You get, in the sensational stamen set, you get 6 different designs and 3 sizes of each. Then turn that over, give it a press in the middle, and then you get kind of a spider thing going on. And again, and then we'll join those together. The flowers aren't 100% symmetrical, because flowers aren't. So when you twist them, they don't always line up bang in the middle. For your stamen, you just do circular motions in the middle and it all pops up. So I think that one's a little bit big for that. So what we're going to do is use the medium one and pop that in the centre. And you will find when if you use wet glue that your flowers keep their shape really well. Then in the centre, we're going to pop one of the new gems, the obsidian. This is Crystal Gemporium, the multifaceted flat back gems, and this is the black one. And we're going to use an 8mm. There's 8 and 5 in the pot. And we use our pick-up tool to pick it up and pop it in the centre, but don't use the pick-up tool to push it down. You can use your fingers to push it down and it sticks to your fingers. Let's try that again. and again. Okay, right, so there's our flower, and I've got another one with a stamen in it, and then I've got 3 smaller ones here as well. So those are going to go on our card in a moment. Right, I think we're at construction. Yay! So, first of all, we want our background. So this is going to go on, this is on Elegant Ebony card. Let's glue this down first of all. See, I haven't put my foam tape on the back of this because I want to be able to press my background down so it's nice and flat. You will find sometimes the card will kink because obviously the embossing I've done is really deep. You can just pop it underneath a mat or a book and then it will flatten out. The same goes with when you've embossed an image as well, or like this one, because it's quite wet, it needs to flatten out a wee bit. So I don't think there's an up and a down. I think we're just fine as we are. So I've just left a very thin black border around the edge. Let's turn that over and give it a really good press. Make sure it's nice and flat. I don't want a kinky background. And let's go for 2mm foam tape on the back. Scissors, I had them a second ago. I drive myself nuts, absolutely nuts. Use these. Oh, there they are. I knew I had them. Okay. And then you want one in the middle as well, because nobody likes a saggy middle. Sometimes when we get to a certain age, we have no choice, but we don't like it. Back off. And then I haven't made a proper card because I rarely make proper cards, but I will tell you what the measurement is. Obviously you don't need to go as big as I have. So my actual card blank in inverted commas is it's actually 8 3/8. So just a fraction over the A4 width by 7. So obviously you can do it just a little bit smaller and it'll be fine. So let's put this on here. Hopefully that's straight, and then we're going to put our frame on our image like so. Doesn't that, it's fabulous. I need to chop a little bit off the bottom, but I'll do that in a minute once I've got the frame on, rather than chopping it off first. Again, we've got 2mm foam tape on here. And see if I can get it straight. I don't want that daisy to be hidden. I want it over a little bit. Fiddle, 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 fiddle. There we go. Happy with that. So we just get rid of this extra little bit down the bottom here. So I'm just using my scissors at an angle and just running it along the edge of the foam tape to get a nice neat finish to it there. Doesn't it look fabulous? Can you imagine these if you just did them like that and put them up on your wall as a bit of wall art, or in your craft room? You could have all 6 of them. I think that would look absolutely wonderful. But obviously we're making a card, so this is going to go on our card in the middle. And like I say, I mean, I will show you what it would look like if you did it the other way up, the traditional way of doing it, but I didn't want to be traditional with this card. So if we were to do it that way up, it it would be like that, and you could have perhaps a sentiment down the bottom if you wanted to. That would be lovely. Absolutely, it would work. But just for something different, we're going this way, just because we can. So we're going to pop that in the middle like so. I'm going to give it a good old press in that middle bit there, because you know we've had a lot of kind of kinkiness with the background, with it being wet, because normally what I would do is I'd put it underneath the mat to flatten it, but so you can't. That background looks fabulous, doesn't it? Really happy with that background. Just making sure that the glue is bonded so it doesn't come up. I'm happy with that. So let's go for our sentiment. So my sentiment I'm going to pop here like so. So I'm just going to put a fraction of foam tape just on this side here, just a tiny little bit, and I wonder if I need to put, it's not pressed too hard, I think I need to put a little bit of 1mm on there as well, because obviously we've got the depth of the frame to contend with as well. So just a little bit more. There's 3mm on there now, and we're going to just glue the rest to the frame. About there, I think. And then we're going to bring in our flowers. And what did I do with my leaves? Here's my leaves. So we've got some floaty fronds. Let's just see where I want these. So just the smallest. You get a right and a left and 2 sizes. So I'm thinking that we will have 2 daisies down here, like so. And I'm thinking that we're going to have 3 little daisies, perhaps. Let's figure out how we want these. I think we have the big one down there, then the little one, maybe like that, in that corner. Yes, let's do that. Let's get the glue on the back of them all, because it's quicker to glue them down. Sometimes it's a good idea to take a photograph of what you're doing, and then you know where you want things to go. Can't do that when I'm videoing with my phone then, obviously. I use Sentimentally Yours glue. I know that Phil uses Pin Flare when he sticks his flowers on. For me, Sentimentally Yours glue just is the business. It just does everything for me. I'm more than happy to use it on absolutely everything. So let's have our leaf there, and our other one just up there like so. And we were having the big one down the bottom, so you don't want it to come right the way off of my card, and the smaller one, perhaps tuck that underneath there like that. Give it a good old press. The glue there will dry nice and clear, that'll be absolutely fine. Hopefully that looks okay. Faff, 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 faff. And then we'll pop our flowers on. So we're having one just there, one actually on the frame, and one that I just stuck my fingers in the glue up there like so. And then just to finish off, we're going to pop a gem in each corner, just because I think it finishes it off nicely. So again, we're going to go for the obsidian gems, and we go for 8mm. 2, 3, 4. Oh, I don't want that one. Let's have this one. I think it just finishes it off nicely if you actually give it a bit of attention to detail and have a gem in each corner. And they're so lovely anyway. You can only get the gems from Honeypot Crafts. I don't have these on my website because he won't let me. Just saying. There we go. You have to think about the fact that you've got your embossing folder in the background. So there we are, all finished. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you've learned something. I really do think this is a beautiful collection. And don't forget, there are 6 flowers in the collection, and then there's also the wood grain background as well. Be sure to check out the Facebook group, Crafting with Phil Martin and Sentimentally Yours, where all the sneak peeks and new collections appear. And do subscribe to my channel for more videos, just Julia Watts, and then the Phil Martin, Crafting with Phil Martin and Sentimentally Yours YouTube channel as well. And the products are available on either juliawattscrafts.co.uk or Honeypot Crafts. Thank you for watching. Bye.